What's up guys, John here and welcome back to John Moon Studios. In this week's video, we're going to be checking out the console one and fader one, and we're going to be talking about all the knobs and parameters that we have on the device. So let's get right to it. Okay, so today we're going to look at the actual unit of the console one and the fader one, and I'm going to go ahead and start off with the console one here. If you haven't seen my previous video, I went over the digital interface of the console one, so you can go ahead and check that out and get familiar with it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the console window. So the way we do it is by clicking this button up here on the right, top right, and it's going to go ahead and open up the console one plugin. So now if you look at the layout of the digital version, it's the same layout we have here. Of course, we have some buttons up here and some extra buttons that we have that we don't see inside of the digital version, but we're going to go ahead and talk about this. So the first thing we see on the left side, kind of like what we see in the digital version, is we see our input gain. So we can actually move the knob and it moves with it. So the input gain has nothing to do with the faders inside of Logic in this case, right? The volume over here is the volume that you're going to see in Logic move when you move it. This is what we call the DAW volume. So the volume over here, depending on what DAW you're using, the name would change. In Logic, it says just volume, but in Cubase, it says DAW volume. So we have to, you have to be careful or not to get confused with that. So this just controls the output of whatever it is that you're working on. Okay, so if you look at the left side here, we have the high cut and we have the low cut, and then we have some buttons here. So you see in the digital version, it says filter to compressor. If I press that button, you're going to see that turn on, and then in the compressor section inside the digital version, you'll see side chain filters in there. You could enable that. You can invert the phase. So if you have, let's say you recorded, drums and you have two microphones in the drums, if one of them is out of phase, you could flip it right here. And then here you have a save preset. So let's say you worked on a vocal chain and you want to make sure that you could recall those settings. You could just hit save preset, and then here it'll give you a bunch of options. So you could do a user preset, or you could just go ahead and call up the the default presets that we have here already. So once you could scroll down with this volume here, and then whatever it is that you want to choose, you hit OK. And then you can go ahead and continue with the prompts and save your presets. So now we're going to go ahead and move over to the shaper section. So again, it looks just like what's in the digital version, except we have, we can disengage or engage the shaper section with this button up here. And then we have a way of turning on the hard gate if it was on, right? So if it was on, you could turn it on, turn it off. Oh, one more thing. You can also see how much the shapers, being used with this little meter here. So it's a little meter that shows a minus and plus sign, and you could see how much of the sustain or punch you're using, and as well as the gate. So that's pretty cool that you can see that instead of looking at the digital. Let's say you're mixing, you could just pay attention to the console one, and it kind of makes you use your ears instead of your eyes. So that's pretty cool. So now we have the EQ section. We have 4 bands. We have high, high mid, low mid, and lows. We have the option for the 2 on the outside to be either a cut or bell or a shelf. So if I switch these, you see that they switch inside of the DAW, or the plugin rather. So I have it on a shelf right now. And then next to it, we have the compressor. So these are just knobs that we see in a compressor, so you should be familiar with it. We have a dry wet, so we can actually create what we call a parallel compression, which is pretty cool that we could do that. So let's say we can mix it in with, if we go 50%, then it'll be 50% dry and 50% wet. So that'll mean with the signal coming in from the compressor. That's pretty cool that they added this knob in here, so you don't have to do it, sending it to a bus inside of your DAW. You can actually do it straight from the console one. And then we have our threshold, release, ratio, and attack. And again, the same layout as the digital version. You have the button to, disengage and engage. All of them do, so you could turn them off whenever you want to. Next, we have our drive section. So this is just to add some distortion. Right now, I'm using the solid state SL4000 console. So it'll be using the 4000 harmonic distortion that comes with the actual unit, the actual console. So you could go ahead and turn this up, and this is a character knob, whether you want it to the right more bright or to the left a little bit more dark. You can go ahead and tailor that to whatever it is that you need. We see the output section, so you do even have a meter here, so you could see the same meter you have on screen, you have it on the console one as well. You have down here where we have a pan knob, so you can pan it left and right. And then here you have your overall volume. This is pretty much what these knobs in the bottom here do. We have our solo button and we have a mute button here. So let's say I want to solo a track, I could do it just by clicking that button. And if I want to mute a track, I could do the same. And you see that inside of the plugin, we see that it turns red, or we see the solo that turns yellow. Next, we're going to talk about what we have up here, these little buttons. So this is the track selector. So the cool thing is that console one, or console in general with the fader as well, either or, if you have, them separately, it automatically reads what your track numbers are inside your DAW. So if I click on track number 2, you're going to see that it says guitar left. So that's my guitar left track. This is my guitar right track. Oh, I guess I named it the same. So it's supposed to be guitar right, and then this is a bass track, and then here's my drum track. So depending on how many tracks you have, it can go all the way up to, I don't even know what number. It's a pretty high number, but you could page scroll. So with this, you only see 20 here, but if I page scroll, it'll be the first 20, then 21 through 40, and then so on and so forth. You could keep scrolling through the pages. I'm not sure, I don't remember quite right now what the limit was, but I know that it can go to a pretty high number. So right now I'm only using the first 4. I skipped 1 because I do have something else on track 1, but I have track 2, 3, 4, and 5 in use. So you see that they light up here, and then you can recall them anytime. And even in the DAW, you'll see that it'll be moving through the different tracks that I have. Okay, so here we have our track section, which has 2 buttons, a group and a copy button. So the group is, you could group these into VCAs, so that way one fader or one controller can control all the tracks, or you can copy and paste the settings on one or the other. So let's say I have track number 3, all right? And since it's the guitar right channel, I want to make it the same as guitar left. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold copy, and then since I'm already on guitar right or channel 3, it's going to copy the setting. All I need to do is click 2, it'll light up, you let go, and that's it. They're copied. So that's a cool way for you to speed up your workflow. That way you don't have to, redo everything and, move the knobs, get the EQ right. All these things you could just copy and do it like that, and it'll definitely speed up the workflow. So to the right of it, we have the order of the signal chain here. So right now we're going through the shaper, the EQ, then the compressor. So here we can actually change it. He says the shaper, EQ, compressor. We can do shaper, compressor, EQ, or EQ, shaper, then compressor. That is up to taste, but I like it the way it is right now. And here you can add an external sidechain, right? So let's say you're going to use some sidechain. You could put the sidechain on the shaper or to the compressor. So either or, just click this button and you'll be able to engage that. So now we're going to go ahead and check out another cool feature that the console one has. So we can go ahead and recall settings to past settings that you've already used, and let's say you want to go back to it, you can actually recall it using the history section here. So remember how I copied guitar right to guitar left, and I had the high cut was a little bit different from the right channel. So I'm gonna go ahead and recall that setting because I liked how it was before. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit shift, and then I'm gonna hit where it says history. That's number 5. And now inside of the guitar left, so I need to make sure that before I do this, I was inside of guitar left. With this knob, I can actually go a step back, and as you could see, it goes right back to what I had before. So even if you made some radical changes and you move the knob, you let it go, that's considered one step. So that's why it says step 1. If you move the knob again, it'll be step 2. But the important thing is that no matter what, you can always go to whatever it is your latest session. So, the unit has to be on, but the latest session, you go in and you could change it. So this is what I had in step 1. as opposed to step 0, which is the most recent. I can go here, click OK, and now I have the setting I had before. So that's pretty awesome in case you ever, experiment with a different sound. You know that the console one is going to be saving your presets to where it was before, so you never lose anything, and you could recall those settings in real time in a session. So let's go ahead and talk about what the shift button is, because I went ahead and engaged the history channel. We have a bunch of different things that we could change here, so we can actually change the entire strip. If I click here, these are all the different the console one emulates. So right now I'm using the 4000. I don't have any other one at the moment, but I will get my hands on them. And, especially this 9000 console here. But you can go ahead and change the console here in case you want to use any other ones. You just need to go to their website, purchase the console, and then, do the installation. Then you'll be able to use it. So you could do the same with the EQ, and the cool thing is that Softube works directly with UAD, so even your UAD EQs will be shown here. So you could see that you can actually use your APIs, your Pultecs, your Manleys, and it'll go ahead and you're able to use the EQ section to control that. Next, we have our compressor section, same thing. So you can use UAD plugins as well. So these are all compressors, as well as the things that you can buy from Softube as well. And the other cool thing is that you only need to insert one plugin and look at all the control and flexibility you have. Instead of opening up one plugin in an insert, you're opening up one plugin in your track, and then you can control everything here using whatever EQ compressor you want to use. You could also do the same with the shaper. I think I skipped that one, but this one, as you can see, there's not really that many options for it. But again, you still have some UAD stuff, and then the other ones are the Softube. So that's pretty much it for the top portion here. Let's go ahead and check out what the fader one does. So the fader one actually has some very similar buttons in here, simply because you can use either or by itself, or you could buy the combo like I did with this cool little stand that holds both of them and kind of gives you an angle for the top one. Putting my faders in the bottom, and then all of my EQs and all that stuff, I can have it here at the top. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the fader one. So the fader one brings 10 faders. So up here we see 20 channels, but here we can only have 10 faders. And you have pretty much the same idea as the console one. So here we have our solo button, kind of like in a console. You have your mute button. And then down here, you can actually click on the channels as well. So let's say I want to work on guitar left. I could click on that, and you're going to see that inside of the digital plugin, it moves to guitar right and left, right? So now another cool thing that we could do is if we actually go to the settings, which the button is over here, and scroll, either button works to scroll, and you go to where it says set track on touch. These knobs are actually touch sensitive. So what happens is if I get out and let's say I want to affect drums, if I just touch the fader, now it moves to the next track. You could turn this setting off where I showed you, but I like to have it on because when I move a fader, I like to see everything that I've done to affect that signal, to process that signal. You could also do it on solo as well. So if I solo a track, it'll automatically jump to that one track. It's very helpful because if I'm working on this, if I solo a track, it's because I'm going to do something to it or I want to listen to it. So I really want to see what's going on, any of the parameters I affected. So the same thing, we have our display on and off here. We have the different modes that you could jump through. Let me go back to the default screen. Okay, so now we have also loading the drive session. So what the drive is pretty much the distortion. So if I go ahead and click that, you can actually just change the distortion sound. So the cool thing about this is that now you can have, let's say, the 4000 console, but you want to use the 9000 distortion. You can go ahead and load that strip up, just the distortion part of it. So that's pretty cool. Below that, we have our send 1, 2, and 3. Right? We also have it up here. If you hit the shift, you can affect, send 1, 2, and 3, which is shown here. But I like to show it here in the fader one because it's a little bit more comfortable. So if I click on send number 1, this only has 3 sends. So let's say I have a send on my guitar tracks, or I think I have one on my drum track. If I hit send 1, this would be, oh, so I don't have one, but this would show you how much you're sending to a bus. So you can hit track 1, and these are motorized faders. So as you can see, they move on their own. And I can go ahead and send more reverb or send less reverb. Let's say I have, I don't know, a compressor on send number 2, the same thing. And then I have a distortion or whatever. I could do the same thing here. So right now I have it set to volume. You can also control the drive. So what the drive is, the distortion knob up here, I can actually put it in the fader 1. And you see that at least one of them has distortion. So that's my bass track. So this bass track right now, all these faders are just controlling the drive. So the same thing you do here, turning the knob, you could do here in the fader as well. Now we can go into the character. So the same thing you do here. So changing the tone of it. Do you want it darker? Do you want it brighter? The higher up you go, the brighter it is. The lower you go, the more dull it is. So that's how you control the character knob. Notice how they're all set in the middle position. Because you start at 0, go darker, and then go brighter. You can't start from down here because then you won't be able to go darker. You also have the option to control the input gain if you hold, right, which is the same knob as this one up here. Low cut, right, the same knob as this here. You put it up, you're obviously cutting. If you do the high cut, they're going to jump up, and you're going to see that for the high cut, you come down because you're removing those high frequencies. So put this back in volume. Here we have another shift knob. We have an OK and a cancel button. So this is also a solo and a mute button. And then here we have our assignable track button. So the thing about the assignable track button is if I turn this on, notice how I can use this. Oh, got to make sure I click on Logic. I could click on this. Sorry about that. Let's try again. There it is. And then I could also stop it. This can go back to the beginning. And these are called assignable because you can actually make them do whatever you want. But before you do that, let me show you something you need to do on Mac OS only. So I think Windows doesn't have this problem, but you probably have to check. If you hit the Apple, go to System Preferences. You're going to need to go to Security and Privacy, and then go to the Privacy section. Click where it says Accessibility. Unlock the little lock thingy here, and then make sure that console on-screen display is checked. If not, these buttons will not work. It's in the manual, so you can go and check that out, but that's what it says to do. So you can go ahead and make this to do anything. So right now I have this saved to play and stop, and then this back to the beginning. The way you change that is you go into the settings. You go to where it says reassign assignable buttons, hit OK. And then here you can pretty much set whatever you want. If you click OK, all you need to do is on your keyboard, you press the parameter that usually takes that place. So in this example, space is the press play. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then once you're done, you just click OK here. And that's it. It's set. So that's pretty much the console 1 and the console 1 fader and how they can work together in order to get your mixes going. So as you can see, I have this track here, and I used it mixing the console 1. So all I have, if I show the mixer screen here, all I have here inserted is console 1s. I already had these EQs here from before. This is a previous session. I just went in and inserted console 1 and remixed this. So this is the new mix of it. So let's just go ahead and check out what this sounds like. This isn't a sound test, but I can go ahead and do one of those in the future. But here we have the track that I use mixing with console 1. Right, so that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please drop your comments down below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly videos. Also, don't forget to check out the John Moon Studio store. I have a variety of merch with the official John Moon Studios logo on it, so go ahead and check it out. Also, down below, I'm going to leave my Patreon page link. For as little as $1 a month, you can go ahead and support the channel, and I will greatly appreciate, as these videos do take time to make. And as always, don't forget to share with your musician friends. I will see you guys soon.